What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Captain's Run, the first one of 2024 with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Protect yourself and those around you from the flu this winter. Book your flu shot today at Chemist Warehouse. Subscribe for the Captain's Run on Apple, Spotify, or where all good podcasts are downloaded. Give us a text. Oh, geez, I've missed your text. I've missed the banter. Look, I've been feeling good about myself lately, so text in and make me feel bad about me. No, I'm just joking. Text in, ask us all your footy questions. I cannot wait to speak to the community and obviously Smithy again too. Make sure you're following. Obviously, give us a text 0457 736 736. That's 0457 736 736. Make sure you're following our brand new Twitter profile at Captain's Run NRL and follow SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. We have the great Cam Smith here. How you going, brother?
Campy, we're back.
Oh, mate, how exciting!
How
exciting!
Good. I've been counting down the days. I've had this date circled.
Mate.
6th of March. I've had it circled. Been looking forward to it. Welcome back to all of our loyal listeners from the last couple of years, and I reckon we've picked up a few more. There's probably people listening from Vegas now, Campy.
Surely.
All new listeners, new people to our sport, new listeners to the Captain's Run. But it's great to be back on air. Plenty to talk about too, mate.
Plenty. On today's show, Vegas review, a success for the game. We've also got some numbers in regards to Fox Sports over in America. All the big off-season stories we missed. Select our 2023 Dally M. Well, we'll look at potential Dally M's towards the end of the year. Some Smokies, maybe. Preview, and then we'll basically preview the season. And Smithy's we'll preview round one. And then what we'll do is obviously we'll preview each game. And then Smithy will just give a deeper dive into strengths, weaknesses, where he sees that team heading this year. But Smithy, mate, how was your off-season? There was obviously some news in the off-season. You're now coaching the mighty Currumbin Eagles.
Yes.
How's your off-season, mate?
No, absolutely. It was quite a quiet time in the off season, Campy, which was good. Just put the feet up a little bit. Big 2023, of course. Obviously, getting behind the season with commentary and a bit of radio and all that sort of stuff, and doing some coaching with the Maroons as an assistant. But made the decision early in the new year that I'm having a crack at being a head coach.
Yeah.
Now it's junior football. It's nothing too crazy. It's not anywhere up in those realms of the NRL kind or state of origin or test footy. It's the under 15. So I'm going to coach me young fella. So he's been playing at the Currumbin Eagles for a few years now since the family relocated up to Queensland, and great little footy club. Little community based, little tight knit, family based club there with plenty of young boys and girls taking part in junior rugby league here on the Gold Coast. And I thought, well, why not? The time's running out. The young fellas turning 15. The opportunities won't be around for much longer, to coach the young fellas. So I thought, well, I may as well have a go. I've been watching he and his mates, play now for a couple of years. And I just thought, well, get down there and have a go. And in the background too, Campy, I thought, it's in my eyes, I felt it was important too to go back and sort of help out at grassroots level, because I remember back when I was a young guy playing at Logan Brothers, all the volunteers, the coaches, the mums and dads working in the canteen, in the clubhouse, all those types of things. They're the people that give opportunities for our kids to play sport and obviously, sort of dream or find a pathway into the elite systems like the NRL or the AFL, AFLW, NRLW, A-League, all those things. And I thought, well, here's a great opportunity to do that. Obviously, had to give up the state of origin job. Spoke with Billy. He was great about it, actually. He just said, mate, look, go for it. That's fantastic that you're doing that. And just really didn't have the time to do all of those things at once. So I can sit back and watch State of Origin now I'll be commentating, but more as a Maroons fan than sort of being in camp as a coach as well.
Do you think, so you stepped away from footy and you're away from the camp, so it's almost, you have that first year, I assume, going, oh, damn, I miss rugby league, but then you kind of get used to your way of life. But then dipping your toes back into camp with the boys, is that going to be tough each year, going, oh, man, I wish I was in camp?
Well, there are some parts of it, that I'm going to miss, and I already, I took that into account, right? I'm thinking, well, look, this is a really privileged position that I was in, right? To have the opportunity to be in amongst, the State of Origin camp with the Maroons. Very few people get that opportunity, Kempy. So to be in camp with those guys over the last, 2 series was incredible. I was lucky enough to, work alongside a couple of my really good mates in Billy, Jonathan Thurston, Nate Miles, Joshy Henne as well. And to work alongside this new crop of Maroons also, and seeing what they've been able to achieve and, for them to be able to create their own history over the last 2 years, winning back-to-back, that was fantastic. And when I was making my mind up about, sort of stepping away, I thought about those good times. I thought about those times with Alfie Langer getting into the sheds post-game after a victory and singing his song and, shaking all the beer up and tossing it everywhere. They're really enjoyable moments. But I just thought, as I said earlier, the time with, my children and being able to, have the potential to coach my young fella in rugby league, that time was running out. So I thought, well, it's now or never, and I made the decision to move and do something a bit different.
Mate, now, I don't want to create a rift or anything like that, so I just want to let you know.
Here we go.
I just want to let you know, Queensland were desperate to keep my services as the assistant to the assistant. And they offered me, I can't confirm what they offered me, but it was a lot. This is a lot. But I just want to let you know, without even your knowing this, I am now officially the assistant to the great Currumbin Eagles.
You're in?
Yeah, I'm in. I know you don't actually know that, but I'm a loyal man. I don't, our coaching team that we have, I'm not just going to walk away from that, mate. Currumbin Eagles all the way.
Thank you. Mate, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I will have to speak with maybe the club president down there tonight at training. Let him know that we've brought you on board. Not too sure sort of where we're sitting financially. I don't know if we can actually afford the great Denning Camp at the moment, but we'll see how we go, mate. We'll see how we go.
Mate, now Vegas just went by, and you've been in the game for like 20, 25 years, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as someone that has been such a big part of it, but also as a fan of the game, how did you feel coming away from Vegas?
Oh, mate, I loved it. I must admit, I loved it. And I'll be honest here, Kempy. When it was announced that we're going to take these games to Vegas, I was a little bit concerned. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know how, taking it particularly to the United States, how they would receive our game and sort of what the turnout would be, what the reception would be game day. But now I know we had a few Aussies fly over, and fantastic. That's great that the people, fans of our game, fans of those 4 clubs that went across, got behind the game and went over. But we had some locals as well, which was fantastic to see the numbers in the stadium in Vegas was fantastic. Like the pitches looked amazing. They looked amazing. And I'll tell you what, mate, I was glued to the screen for both matches. It really was. And I think that was the goal for the NRL and the commission, was to go over there, create a spectacle for our game, and to try and gain. You listen to Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo, like that's what they're talking about is growing our audience globally, and they see an opportunity over in the States. And look, you've got to applaud the bravery that they showed to launch such a campaign to get over there, but also the 4 clubs too. I thought they did a fantastic job in the lead up, doing plenty of promotions throughout the States and particularly in Vegas in the few days before the game. But the performances that they put into, it was 2 fantastic games of football.
Mate, I absolutely loved it. And I can't remember a round one that just had this very special, unique feel to it. We're actually, the reports are suggesting that the American viewership on Fox Sports 1. So we're looking at, in Australia, 1.7 million across 9K of Fox back home, which is huge for round 1 or round 0. That's not even every game.
No,
that's two
matches.
Unbelievable there. Then in TV totals in the USA, Fox Sports 1, 66,000 for Manly Seagulls. Now, they actually ran over into a college basketball game. 40,000 for Broncos Roosters. Now, that may seem like not that much, but the numbers in regards to the college basketball game, which is, college basketball is huge in America. You're looking at about 150, 160,000 viewership. So, if you were to say a game that no one really knows in America, is going to get 66,000 in our first game there. That's only, what's that? That's about, we'll say 40%. 40% of a college basketball game.
Just under half.
I think that is a big, big win.
Massive.
It's a massive win that, a college basketball game can get 150, 160, and we can get 66 the first year we go over there.
Yeah.
Look, depending on how much it cost, if it cost an absolute squillion and broke the bank, then we have to have the discussion of, is it financially worth it? Yeah. But I think you're not going to see the money back year 3, year 4.
No, I think, and that's the plan, right? That's the talk from the guys up very top, is that this is not just a one-off thing. It's a long-term plan for the game, and they actually spoke. I heard Peter V'landys talking pre-game at the stadium. He was on one of the panels in the pre-game shows. He was talking that we won't know how successful this has been until maybe 2-3 years down the track. It's we can't just come home after this first trip to America and go, well, that was successful or it wasn't. It's going to be 2 or 3 years, and it's great that they're sticking behind it, and they've made some bold moves to try and build the game, to grow it globally, to build the business, and you just don't know what opportunities will come. There may not be any, but at least we're having a crack. And if we can afford to do it without allowing other parts of our game to fall by the wayside, then why not have a shot at the stumps?
Yeah, and also V'landys did say in an interview only recently on Fox that the plan is, if we do make big money from this, it will go back into country footy, grassroots, which is the hope. Which is the hope, because I can understand country footy sitting there going, hang on a sec, all this money's being spent in Vegas.
Yeah,
what about country footy? But if the money is generated that we hope it is, even more money will be going back to country footy. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Look, we've got a new producer. The great Alex is here, but I do feel like, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, but that was a parting blow from Tommy. He must have sent that little clip through to say, just played it at the start of the show, just to remind Kempy that the Roosters are on top. But first of all, just quickly, welcome, Alex.
Oh, nice to be here, boys. Thanks for having me. Mate. Appreciate it. Excited.
So basically, Alex also does the Friday show, Morning Glory with Matty Johns, and now he will be the Captain's Run, so can't wait. He's also a bit of a soccer and aficionado, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we?
Limited.
Roosters defeat the Broncos 20-10. Tries, Manu, Punga, Radley, Broncos, Mariner Walsh, Sam Walker, 4 from 4. Reynolds, 1 from 2. Smithy,
yes.
What do you reckon, mate? 2 heavyweights?
Yeah, slightly different game to the first match, which we'll get into next, Manly Rabbits. But look, again, I was really excited to see these two go to head to head, and actually I was interested to hear the comments post game from a couple of the Roosters people. So Trent Robinson, the coach, and a couple of the players spoke about how they looked back at last year and thought, well, we need to change the way we do things. Right, so let's not build into our season. They were embarrassed by their first up performance when they got beaten by the Dolphins. If you remember back all the way to last year, round 1 at Suncorp, they wanted to get on the front foot early, and I thought they played a great game of footy. Great game of footy. I thought Brisbane, look, they had glimpses of class, right, of the way they played last year. And let's not get too carried away, Kempy. It's round 1.
Yeah, it's
round 1, right? I still have them as my favourites to win the premiership this year. I know you would too. But, they looked a little bit unorganised at times for mine, and a little bit clunky. And, the Roosters look strong. I was really impressed with the way Sammy Walker played Luke Keary. They just steered them around the park beautifully. They played nice and strong through the middle. Victor Radley had another strong game. And, Tedesco, so James Tedesco, he copped a fair bit of criticism last year for, some of his performance, and I think fair enough. At times last year, he was a bit below his best, but it looks as though that he's put in a lot of work, and I think he commented, mate, about how this is the off season, the preseason that has just gone by. That's the longest preparation he's had in a while, and you can tell by the way he's just hit the ground running in round 1.
Oh, mate, the Roosters, I think that they've kind of they've just had to have a real honest conversation with themselves of this late run stuff. Look, it's all well and good when you've got a guy like Cooper Cronk who can, bring the boys in and around, 10, 12, 13 and go, boys, we need to start now. Whereas when you lose a leader like that, very hard to wrangle the boys in early enough at the end of the season to get going. And I think that the Roosters, what I really like about the Roosters situation is Robbo has been really honest with himself as well. Very easy for that bloke to be like, hey, mate, I've won 3 premierships, 4 or 5 minor premierships. I know what I'm doing. Where he's come out and said, mate, we're approaching this season completely different. It's the best the Roosters have looked, in my opinion, in regards to clunkiness, as in non-clunkiness. It's the best Sam Walker and Keary have looked together. Radley looks way more settled and much more sure of his role. I really like their approach of start fast, bank the points up. We can ease off the brakes in the middle of the season, and then we go on that run. I really like that. Do you think they may suffer of they haven't had a full season of high quality footy in a while that they could lose a bit of steam, or do you think that they've got that all planned out?
No, I think they've accounted for that. I think they've planned it. I actually think they're up for this year, mate. I really do. And particularly when I listened to Victor Radley talk post game, and he mentioned something along the lines of what you spoke about, was that it seems as though they've sat down in the start of the preseason just gone and had a really honest conversation with each other, saying, well, hey, look, the Roosters have got this reputation, right, of being one of the bigger clubs in the NRL, one of the best teams, and always have seem to be able to put together a great roster. But their results haven't reflected that, right, over the last couple of years. And they've sort of been living off that 2018, 2019 sort of results where they went back-to-back with the premierships. But Victor Radley, and it was great to hear him talk the other night, like we actually, when I say we, it's the Roosters, this is him talking, they actually sat down, had a conversation about, look, we aren't the Roosters of 2018, 2019. We are nowhere near that. And we are nowhere near the best team in the competition. Like, we're not even close. So the only way we turn that around is through our work, through our performances. And I think they had a huge step in the right direction in game one.
Well, it's a great point, from yourself and obviously Radley as well. In reality, you take away the Roosters badge, you take away whatever, they're a fringe 8 side.
That's what they have been, mate.
In reality, the last 5 years, essentially, I know there were some years I think they finished 5th or whatever, but right now, heading into this season, they are a fringe 8 side. Now, obviously, you look at their side on paper and you go, of course, they're not actually that, but results speak. In regards to the Broncos, look, guys, I think that people, if you actually watched the Broncos last year, they're not Penrith Panthers. They are not clinical. Clinical is the wrong word, but they are not like a systematic, robotic, give a very obvious game plan. They had scrappy win after scrappy win after scrappy win last season against some top-tier sides, against some bottom-tier sides. I personally think it's going to take, round 12, 13, 14, just like it did last year. Remember, everyone was saying, I'm unsure whether they're a premiership threat. We got to the midway through the year and we said, okay, I think they are. I personally think it's going to take a while for them to kick into gear because of the losses of Capewell, Palacia, Flegler, Herbie. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, possibly. I think I think they're ready to go. I just don't think they got it right the other night. I really don't, for whatever reason. But I will stay by my initial thoughts. When I'm watching, I'm thinking, well, this is a footy side. Look, they look fit and ready, but they just looked unorganised at times, and maybe trying to rely on individuals rather than trying to put in a good team performance. So, I'm not too concerned by that first up result. I think that's an easy fix. I think they sit down, review that game, have a look at those areas where they were a bit clunky and a little bit unorganised. Because, mate, you cannot – it doesn't matter who you play. If you play that style of football where sort of you're not all on the same page, it's going to be very hard to win footy games. It doesn't matter who you play. Whether you're playing, the team running first or the team running last, it's hard to get across the line when you're unorganised. And relying on individuals, well, that's you just cannot do that at the elite level. The thing about the Bronx is the question I have is I might throw this to you. How big of an impact do you reckon particularly those two guys of Flegler and Herbie will have on them this year? Do you reckon that will take them a little bit to adjust to, or do you think, they're ready to go?
Definitely, I think that's going to take them a bit to adjust to. You even look to last year, Flegler and Herbie, in round 1, they weren't the same players they were by round 16.
No.
They came on to being some of the best in their position. And I think that it was almost the perfect storm last night. So not last night, in Vegas. So last year, they had Piacora coming off the bench and they had Capewell, Ricky.
Yes.
So what happened in the game against the Roosters? What happens? Piacora gets injured. We have no edge back row on the bench. We have to put Carrigan out there, but we don't have Flegler or Palacia to carry the weight of Carrigan heading on the edges. Yep. And that's where I think they looked very disorganised, because Carrigan's actually usually the one that dictates their ruck positioning, the tip-ons, where we're going to get to.
Yes.
And so I think going forward, Kevy is probably going to have to bite the bullet with one of the big boppers on the bench and bring on a specialist back rower, just because we don't have the same guys like Flegler and Palacia to really pick up Paddy Carrigan's weight through the middle if you move Paddy Carrigan to the edge there.
What were your thoughts on Marty Taupua getting the nod in front of Xavier Willison?
I think Kevy's looked at it and said, it's a long season. This is a super high-pressure game.
Yep.
Let's get the experienced guy. And also, Roosters, notoriously a hyper-aggressive forward pack.
Yep.
Let's get an experienced veteran on there that's a bit thicker and sturdier. We've got plenty of... The last thing we want is Xavier Willison to go out there and get absolutely jammed and lose confidence, later in the year. And so I think he's gone, look, if they were heading into finals right now, I think he picks Willison. But because it's round 1, I think that he's just going to ease him into it. Because if we are to go on a premiership push, Willison's probably the guy, one of the rookies that's going to need to stand up along with Mariner.
Yep. Big talking point out of this one, though, Kempy.
Oh, yeah, big talking point. Obviously, there's been an allegation of a racist slur. Me personally, I will wait until the investigation is done to give my opinion on what has happened. But outside of that, my opinion, obviously, I think it's everyone's opinion, there is absolutely no room for racism. Doesn't matter where, when, who said it. There's no room for racism in rugby league. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, mate, I'm of this exact same opinion. It's look, I don't know when it's scheduled for the hearing. He's obviously been referred straight to the judiciary, Spencer Leniu. It's just it's not a great look, mate. It's pretty ordinary, and if he said it, it's ordinary. Like anyone that's played any level of sport, right? There's banter, there's sledging, but there is a line. There's a line where you just go, that's wrong. You know what's right, and you know what's wrong. There's things in the wrong column that you do not say, and there's things in the right column that you go, well, yeah, you can get away with that. You're trying to stir people up, you try and get under their skin, you try and take their mind off the job. If he said what is alleged has been said, he is in a lot of strife. He is in a lot of strife. So, that's I'm with you where there's a process that needs to be stepped through, and that'll happen with the judiciary. Not sure when that's happening. It'll obviously have to happen fairly soon, I'd like to think. It's going to be happening Tuesday, Alex has just said. So that's going to be coming up in the next sort of week. But it's look, if they have the audio and it's clear of what he said or what he's alleged to have said, he's going to be spending some time on the sideline. There's no doubt about that.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith and myself. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Protect yourself and those around you from the flu this winter. Book your flu shot today at Chemist Warehouse. Manly defeats the Rabbitohs 36-24. And the great Luke Brooks's redemption arc, it begins in the biggest way possible. I thought he was outstanding. Smithy, speak to me. What do you think of the game, mate?
Oh, great game. Great game, mate. It was a fantastic way to kick off the Vegas doubleheader. Triathlon, which was, I think, what the NRL was hoping for, I guess, in the first up match, which brings entertainment. Really impressed with the way both teams started. They were physical. A couple of massive shots. They were big hit on Kepi, the former Eagle, the former teammates. They line him up. I think it was Josh Alloy and was it Jakey? Was it Jakey Drabojevic got involved in that tackle maybe? But anyway, it was big hits, line breaks. some fantastic footy. But Manly, super impressed with Manly. Super impressed with Manly, how they sort of hung in there, fought their way back into the game, and then sort of not just got in front, they actually kicked. Couple of some of the superstars on show as well. Tommy Trebojevic, really happy to see him get through 80 minutes, and he looked like he was moving freely.
Yep.
Not great signs for us Queenslanders later in the year. Kempy, I'm sitting there just going, oh mate, love seeing you back, Tommy, but geez.
And then Latrell Mitchell killing it too.
And then Trell as well. Mate, he had some great touches, and he looks fitter than what he has in the last couple of years. But he was involved in a couple of moments which gave momentum back to Manly. And the concerning thing for me with the Rabbits, mate, is that that's what cost them their season last year. Remember back round 11, they are leading the competition. And then I think, did they lose 6 in a row? Something like that. Yeah. It was something. And then their season just went into a spiral. And they ended up missing out on playing finals when they were leading the comp halfway through it. So those small little things that cost them the victory the other night. Well, I won't say cost them the victory. It took them out of the match, or sort of took the opportunity away from winning the game, or handed momentum back to Manly, I should say. That's what happened in the back half of last year. So they need to. Again, like I spoke about, with the Broncos, let's not get too carried away, right? It's round 1, but we've seen this last year from the Rabbitohs, where they'd start well, they get themselves in a position where they're in front, they've got full control of the game, and you're looking at them going, well, look, they're going to go on and win this one, but they find ways to hand momentum and opportunities back to the other team.
That's my reading of it was basically key. So they were building pressure, and you're like, this is a top tier side. Building pressure. You can see the Eels are hanging on by a thread. Yep. The only, saving grace or silver lining is outside of the errors from Trell towards the end of the game. I know he's through that intercept, but outside of the ones at the end of the game, it was two errors from Richie Kenner. That was an issue.
Defensive errors.
And so usually full strength, that would be Jackie White and Campbell Graham.
Yep.
And then there was an error from Mawali, who was also relatively young. So if you're looking for a glass half full kind of, okay, they're younger, they're the rookies, I think that's a good thing. I will say, positives, I thought Cookie played the best game he's played in a very long time. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, he has. And, mate, I was watching him too and thinking, mate, this is great. Like, he's playing some great footy. He was active early. He was running the ball, very direct. The challenge for Damien Cook, right? So he's getting a little bit older now, Kempy. The challenge for Cookie is that, like, when you're playing in that position, when you're playing dummy half, he's not a huge body in today's game. He's standing in front of guys that are weighing in excess of 112, 115 kilos. He's putting his body in front of them, tackling them. Like, he's making 30, 40 tackles a game.
Yeah.
As the season goes on, your body gets sore, mate. You know what I mean? Your body gets sore. And we've probably seen that from Cookie over the last couple of years, where he's fantastic in the first 8 to 10 rounds. And slowly but surely, the number of runs decline, which, when he's running the ball, Souths are very, very good. Very, very good, because he gets Latrell on the front foot, he gets Cody on the front foot, Lachlan Ilias plays off momentum. So it's hard, mate. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for him to keep up that intensity, that style of footy where, he's having 15 runs a game and making 40 tackles. It's a big ask to do that every week of this competition. So, but completely agree. Really positive start by Cookie. Great to see him playing the way he did in round 1. And I'll tell you one other bloke I was really impressed with, Luke Brooks.
Mate, how good was he?
Oh, he's so good. So good.
And also, you'd know better than anyone, like, combinations take ages. Like, we're talking, sometimes they can take 2 years to really feel like, I know exactly where they want the ball. I know exactly where I need to be. Mate, he looked as smooth as anything with DC. They didn't look like they hadn't played together before ever. No.
And, mate, I'll tell you what, he looked like a relaxed footy player. That's what he looked like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, when he first started playing, like, he was just confident, relaxed, just go and play his game. Last couple of years, he just looked like it almost like he didn't want to be there. He was just like, mate, I don't want this pressure. It's too hard. And you can understand why, given the results that the West Tigers have had over recent times. But he looked like a person where he didn't have that weight on his shoulders. Like that's DCE's team.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the one that manages their footy side. He directs them around the park. He's barking instructions, all that sort of stuff. Brooksy was just all he had to do was look after his edge. So he just sat out there, waited for his opportunities. And the thing I loved about his game on the weekend was that he took on the defensive line early, got himself into the game, felt good, and then ended up scoring a try. Nearly scored 2. He dropped that one over the line when he was reaching out. But it's great to see him back, confident, relaxed, playing the footy that we all know he can play.
I just like to going back to Cookie. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I am becoming more and more, probably the last 2 years. The believer that if you are an explosive kind of dummy half that does like to run the ball a lot, I actually don't think it's in your best interest to be an 80-minute hooker. You even look at the Storm heading into finals last year. Harry Grant was actually put to the bench because it was like, look, why is he on the field in the washing machine getting jammed when his best asset is his running game?
Yeah,
I think the days of an 80-minute hooker, unless you are more of a hooker that is service first, just getting the boys around the park, I kind of feel like the days are a little bit over with the speed of the game. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, mate, you might be onto something there because a lot of teams are doing that. Also, the reason why a lot of teams are doing it too is because there's not that many 9s that can play 80 in today's game. They don't have that fitness level to be able to make 40 tackles and to be able to carry the footy, 10 or 12 times. But certainly those blokes with that explosive speed, that express speed, like Cookie, maybe that's something that they need to look into is just give him a little spell either side of half time just to keep his energy levels high. And because like that's his biggest weapon, right? His biggest weapon is his speed. Like I've played against the guy many, many times. And when he's playing that explosive game where he's running direct, he's coming at your defensive line, he's making you make decisions quickly, that's when he's at his most dangerous, which in turn makes the Rabbitohs dangerous as well. So it's a good point you make, mate. It's something that, Dimitri might have to look into in the future.
And to your point that you spoke about earlier, it's such a long season. Like, yes, okay, Cookie can do this for 20 rounds. But when you get into the back end of the season and you need him to actually go to another level, it's like his body just can't. On top of that, I also do think there is value in bringing on different players to play hooker for 10 to 20 minutes to vary the tempo of your team's attack so that it doesn't get into kind of a rhythm where you go, okay, we know what's coming here. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Now it's time for best hands thanks to Schnitz. Now I want to put something forward to you, Smithy.
Yes, mate. What do you got?
Can I nominate Latrell Mitchell's hands from multiple tries, best hands, Latrell Mitchell try assists? Thoughts?
Yeah. No, I'm happy with that. I'll tell you what I was really impressed with was the ball that he gave to Gagai for Gagai's try, where you see a lot of, and I was actually talking with my young fella about this when we were watching the game. And I said, mate, look what he does really well here. So he gets the ball, they shift out to the right-hand side, receives the pass, and instead of trying to take the line on a little bit and suck in defenders, he knows that his wing has got space, right? He's got space on the outside. He had about 10 or 12 metres outside of the opposite winger, and he's just gone zing. Yeah. Here you go, mate. Here's your opportunity. This is your job. Go and finish this for me. So he had some really like soft touches too, but I thought that was the one that really, really impressed me, was the one where he just went, nah, here's some early ball, and he zinged it. I don't know, it's probably a 20-metre pass, 20-metre pass, went across 2 players, hit Gagai on the wing. Gagai finished, which was fantastic. And mate, I'm with you. He had some nice touches.
Yeah, best hands thanks to Schnitz. And I agree with you, mate. The delicate, like the minor parts of that play that a lot of, maybe the more casual fan might not see, even the choice to spin it flat, which is really, really hard to do, where it's almost dipping a little bit at the end, knowing that his winger needs a flat ball rather than a looping pass.
Yes.
A lot of fullbacks will just go, oh, it's a long pass, it's that looping pass.
Yeah, the lob.
Yeah, just a lob kind of pass, and then the winger runs out of room. They just executed it perfectly. The thing with Trell, I thought he played outstanding. It's just going to be all the little things in his game that he just needs to round out to take them to a premiership.
Yep.
If he can do that, I mean, we're in for a huge year if he can, because like physically he looks the best he's looked in years.
Yes.
It's a little tiny things of, your kick coverage, you're getting back, maybe taking out one or two of those crazier plays. I mean, a little bit similar-ish to Reece Walsh last year, where you go, if you could just pull back one or two of those plays, you're in a perfect spot. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Now, Smithy, I've made a huge error. I went to a break too quickly. We didn't get to actually get to the best hands thanks to Snitz. I just put forward one option. But there is more options than that, and I would love to hear your option for best hands thanks to Snitch.
Yeah, well, there was one pretty good one, I must say, in the Roosters Broncos match. Joey Manu. How? Tell me. How did he get that flick pass away?
Unbelievable.
He sets up Ponga for his try, but just incredible. Like, when he gets the ball, he does his little in and away. You're thinking, well, he's going to score himself, or he could have just tipped on, but he thought, nah, I want to challenge myself here.
Yeah.
And just did the flick pass around the back. And, mate, how do you... Geez, he must be flexible.
I just... Unbelievable. And also, like, the grip strength.
Like that.
Not looking... His shoulder is in a very, precarious position. Joey Manu, just reminding us all why he is a top-tier centre and has been, you probably put Critter and Herbie as, the form centres of last year. But when you talk about the last 5 years or, maybe a little bit longer, Joey Manu's been at the top of the list for a very long time.
Class, mate.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Protect yourself and those around you from the flu this winter. Book your flu shot today at Chemist Warehouse. Give us a text 0457 736 736. Smithy, it's time to put our you-know-what's on the line. We are here to predict premiers, runners-up.
Wow.
Dally M medal, top try scorer, biggest improver, biggest slider, and a hot take. Let's start with the premiers for 2024, Smithy. Who have you got?
Well, I'm going to go the Broncos. I'm going to go the Broncos off last year. I think they came very, very close. They came within 15 minutes, in fact. I know you don't like to talk about this, Kempy, but they came that close. They had one hand on the trophy. That's how close it was. It took a massive effort from Penrith to come back in that game and seal the three-peat. But I'm going the Broncos. I think they would have taken a lot out of that not just the game, but the week. What grand final week's all about. And I think they'll be hurting a lot from that from the loss. Who are you thinking, mate?
Mate, now, Rob from Blacktown, I'm not copying his answer. Just so you know, I already had the Brisbane Broncos. There's video evidence of me saying that prior to this episode. Look, put it this way. If they get into the grand final, I would be shocked if they lose that grand final. I think that's going to be their hardest thing is to get into it. Because I think they learn a valuable lesson in little things. Like, for example, Penrith Panthers, having been there 4 times before that, or that was their 4th time, understood that first 20 minutes, lie in the ruck, test the referee, see what you can push, what you can't push, understand that the grand final is refs different to every other game, similar to Origin. Yes. And I think that the Broncos were a bit shell-shocked with that, not understanding that they also could test the limits of the ref and understand the ref was going to allow the game to flow. And we saw that in the second half when they did come back, they realised, hang on a sec, this is the vibe of the game. So, I'm going to go Broncos, but some other schmokies, and I wouldn't even say schmokies, not a schmokie, sorry, apologies. I think Penrith absolutely have the team to be back in the premiership.
I think they can go again?
I think they can go again.
4 in a row?
I really do. I mean,
wow.
So currently,
no critter.
Well, as it stands, they're still the 10th most experienced team in the NRL. So when you think about squad cycles, usually it's like a 3 to 4 year cycle of building a squad into a premiership. They're in their 4th year of this squad, 5th year, and technically you could argue this is their peak. Like they're about to head into their peak. Their front rowers are 28, 29 years old. Series only going to get better. Look, Penrith can be there. Any other? What about for yourself?
Other Smokies?
Well, okay, we'll go Smokies.
Smokies. Ooh,
I've got the Warriors.
The Wars?
The Wars. I reckon they're a real shot. Yep.
I'll tell you what I've been surprised with. A bit of chat around the game about, was it everyone thinking it's a one-off year and that they're under pressure. I don't think so at all.
Yeah, okay.
I think they go again.
Yeah, I like that.
Really?
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't think that it's a one-off year in the sense of like they'll drop back to 13th or 14th. But before watching the trials, I thought that they would slide, and I have them in the bracket between 6th and 9th.
Oh, okay.
After watching the trials, I am very scared of that prediction. I think they look great, like really good. I think Roger looks like he has not missed a beat. Unbelievable.
How many first up defenders did he beat in that trial match? I watched one of their games and I was just like, oh, that's scary.
Oh my God. and Smithy, you know better than anyone. In these big games, like you can have a good side, but in big games, you need at least one superstar in your 17
X factor
that just can change things for you.
Yep.
And I go back to that Broncos Warriors game where the game was in the balance, and you just have to ask yourself if RTS was out there, could have he done something special? You know?
Yep. Well, mate, more times than not, like you've seen in his career so far that he's played in the NRL. Like he's got all of that about him. He's got the great qualities of a consistent player, like he's strong carry, good defensive player, but also too he can just get the ball when nothing's happening, like an Inglis, Latrell Mitchell, Tedesco, these guys, Reece Walsh. He's got that same ability to do those things.
Absolutely.
So look, I think they'll go strong again. Look, my runners up, I've got Melbourne.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're looking good.
Didn't have like from a team point of view, where looking at them in their performances throughout last year, I don't think they were anywhere near their best, but still made a prelim. So I think if they get all their ducks in a row, and their players can stay fit, Pappenhausen plays, let's say, 80% of the season, and is particularly fit and playing well at the end of the year through finals, I think they can be back in the big one.
So you reckon Broncos Storm Grand Final 2006 replay?
How good!
I tell you what.
Different result though, hopefully.
I tell you what.
Although I've tipped Broncos as premiers, given what happened last year, I think Storm might be back in the big one.
I tell you, if people were considering whether Smithy would come back, I reckon a Broncos Storm rematch. That may just be enough to get the big fella back in the game.
Yeah, right.
Just a one-off.
We'll do the. I'll be Harry Grant's sub. I'll play 5 minutes. That's all I'd last. That's all I'd last, mate.
Okay, now we haven't got it here, but Smokey for top 4, and I'm talking big outsiders. For me personally,
yes,
Gold Coast Titans.
Well, mate, I've got the biggest mover.
Okay,
that's my biggest mover. So
Titans.
I think same thing. Biggest mover, Titans. I think. They're another team that I think massively underachieved last year, given their squad and the talent that they have in their footy side. And if you think back to some of their results, like they lost, I think it was 4. They lost 4 games when they were up by, they were leading the match by like 16 or more points, and they surrendered those leads. So, if they finished 14th overall, but if let's say those 4 games that they lost, if they had won, they'd be a part of finals. And I just think, Desi Hasler now coming on board, what he would have done to this footy club over the preseason was put them through the ringer and they will be a mentally tough footy side now. So when they get in those situations where they are, 14, 16 points up, I don't think they will squander those leads this year.
And I think that you saw, look, their second trial wasn't great. But you did see some of that, more resilience in defence, that Desi has a resilience in defence. And also, I just think with Desi, he's just not going to cop it.
No.
He's just, so it's kind of like that playing group, you either get on or you get out, pretty much.
Yes, absolutely, mate.
Which I feel for a few years, it was very much like, okay, let's work together, guys. All right, we had this lapse here. Let's keep progressing. I just don't think Desi's copping that. I just don't. Biggest slider for you?
Oh, geez.
I'll say mine first so that doesn't sound like I'm copying.
Okay, no, you go first.
Canberra Raiders. I think they're in for a tough year. I just
really
look in key positions. Unsure who their 9 is. maybe Danny Levi, Starling comes off the bench, which, it's okay.
Yep.
Rookie 6 in Strange. Fogarty needs to step up in a big way. And then at the back there, I don't think Chevy Stewart is probably ready yet as a rookie.
Yep.
So you're probably going to have to put a non-specialist fullback back there.
Yep.
Look, they've got a premiership level forward pack. I think their spine is a bit of a concern this year.
Mate, for mine, I think the Sharkies.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think possibly Sharkies.
trouble in the Shire, you reckon?
Well, there's not a lot of change there. There's not a lot of change, and they haven't, like last year, they went backwards last year from 2022, and they have not found a way to compete against sides that sit above them on the table. I don't know whether it's a mental thing, physical thing. I don't know what it is, whether they can't compete with those sides mentally. They sure do have the skill. There's no doubt about that, and the ability, because you see that when they're playing the sides that are sitting below them. But they've got this issue at the moment, Kempy, when they verse teams that are sitting in the top 8, they cannot find a victory. And it's like they forget how they play their football. They get put under pressure, and everything just goes out the window. So I think possibly the Sharkies, they might slide out of the 8.
I think with the Sharkies, it's going to be an answer year. And what I mean by an answer year is basically if they do make the top 4 and they, push for a prelim final, let's say they get to a prelim, then you have your answer of, once we add Adam Fanua-Blake to this side, we should be pushing for a premiership. Now, if they struggle again this year in the big games and they can't beat a top 8 side, I think Fitzgibbon has to, and I think he will be, quite honest with himself and say this roster needs an overhaul. Yeah. If we're in the premiership business of winning premierships rather than, being okay with finishing top 8, I think that he's going to go, okay, this is the 3.5 year with this roster, or 3 years with this roster.
Yep.
It hasn't progressed as I thought it would, because basically, what Fitzgibbon has come out and said is that, with this current roster, I feel we are progressing nicely and we are heading into that point of kind of knowing where we're at. And so with the Sharkies, that's where I kind of see them. It's like you're going to know what this roster currently can do this year, because they're in their peak kind of year as a roster.
Yeah, right. What about a Dally M medal?
Ooh, okay.
Who's winning
Dally
this?
M. I think
I'll let you go first again.
Yeah, let me go first, please. Let me go first. Dally M medal. You know what? I'm trying to think. I've fogged out here.
It's actually a little bit harder,
Yeah.
right? It's harder given this two judges system where you can pick up 6 points. All right, I'll remind you a little bit of the results last year, and so from the winner down, right? So Ponga, he obviously took it out. Sean Johnson second, Scott Drinkwater third, and then it was Hines, Grant, DCE, first forward in the list, Adam Fanua-Blake. Then it was Dylan Edwards, Nathan Cleary, Payne Haas, Isaiah Yeo.
Okay, I'm going to say 2. Reece Walsh.
Ooh.
Or, and I'm going Smokey here, and I know it's not a good balance because he's got other players that are going to steal points.
Yes.
Dylan Brown.
Wow.
Put it this way.
Brown.
Lock Dylan Brown in. Lock him away. Dally M 5/8 of the year. If he stays injury free, lock it in.
Holy moly.
Yeah, lock her in, son.
That is mate, that's a big call.
Yeah, well, hey.
Although I love Dylan Brown. He's a great player. I just love him.
There's so much to play for him this year,
Yeah.
He's 3 or 4 years into his first grade, journey.
Yes.
On top of that, before last year, he was a top 3-6 in the game. It was basically Munster, himself, Jerome Luai. So he's right up there. I just think that he's in for a huge year. And he has all the attributes to break games, but also do all the stuff that kind of can earn you those points. I know he's going to share them with Mitchell Moses and Gutho.
Yep.
But I think he's going to I'll Smokey for the Dalium.
I'm going to go away from where I went last year with my thinking, where I went Josh Hodgson. I'm going to stay away from the 9s,
okay.
Because you look at the sort of, it's littered with, you're either playing fullback or in the halves, right?
Okay.
So this year, and this might raise a few eyebrows though, I'm going Scott Drinkwater.
Oh, you're going my pick for last year.
Drinky.
I like that.
He finished third, although he wasn't eligible because he got his suspension. And I'm going drinking.
You're on the drink bandwagon.
I think they're turning things around this year, the Cows.
Okay.
I think they're going to be sort of loitering around that top 4, and they're going to be winning a fair few games, and he'll be a huge part of those matches that they win.
Well, he basically perfect position too, because he will get like if they win, he's usually the guy that's going to stand out.
Yeah, well, he's setting up tries, he's scoring tries, he's kicking goals at times, making line breaks. He's heavily involved in their all of their positive attacks. So I'm going Scotty Drinkwater.
Okay, all right. I mean, that'd be crazy because he didn't even make the New South Wales squad in the start of the year, which was so surprising to me. What were your thoughts on some of those omissions, like Stefano, obviously Drinkwater omission, and the early year squad for the Blues?
Well, I think they're sort of settled on what they had sort of last year. Mate, they've got some great players. Yeah. It's so hard. Like when you're putting together those initial squads, those pre-season squads, with so much talent without seeing some footy, being played, like it's a difficult thing to do, right? Because like the Blues and Queensland, like they've got so many great players to pick from. But there's no doubt about it, though. Like someone like a Scott Drinkwater, if he hits the ground running first 6 rounds, Cows get four wins out of the 6. His name will be tossed about. Don't worry about that.
Okay. All right. Now we have got top try scorer. I've got Greg Marju.
Ooh.
Outside of Ponga.
Greg Marju.
Yeah, Marju.
So you're thinking Knights are going to go well again?
I think that, look.
If he's top try scorer.
You know what? I even think if Knights, land in the middle of the table from 7th to 10th, I just think outside Kalen Ponga is the best real estate in the business. And Dom Young is gone now, so he won't, I guess, suck up as many tries. I think
yes.
Marju.
When's Dom Young set to play? Is he going to be right for their second game? Do we know that?
Round 2 or 3. I don't think it was as serious as they were first concerned about. No surgery, I don't think.
Yeah, right. I'm just thinking because he doesn't. So Dom Young being English, so he doesn't miss games through Origin.
Ooh.
So he's going to be available.
Okay.
Just thinking of guys but at the same time, I'm thinking, off the back of me talking about Storm and maybe possibly going all the way to the last game, possibly Xavier Coates.
Ooh, I like that.
So I've got to, I don't know, do I have to decide? Can I just put those 2 in?
Just put those 2 in, I reckon. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Protect yourself and those around you from flu this winter. Book your flu shot today at Chemist Warehouse. Time for the good oil, thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested, and first cold pressed in northern Victoria. Now, last week's signings news, Storm flyer Sua Faalogo has signed a new deal that will see him fullback remain at the club for 5 years. 20-year-old made his debut around 27 last year, set the game alight. He'll be the 5th player to graduate from NRL Victoria into the Storm system. Smithy, look, the obvious is great young gun, but what does this say about, I guess, who has that fullback jersey for the next 5 years?
Well, I think they're just they're covering all bases, aren't they, Storm, signing Sua Faalogo? Well, one, they're covering bases for their number 1 position, and also I think it's probably trying to keep the sticky fingers from all the other clubs coming in to grab him, because there's no doubt he would have caught the eyes of every other NRL club in the competition with his efforts last year, particularly that game against the Broncos. What was it, last round, I think it was, where a few of the youngsters, that was his first game, I think, his debut. So really impressive young man. Some of his ability to break tackles and break the line and just his footwork, his agility, all that sort of stuff is incredible. And, mate, if you get a chance, like for everyone listening, if you get a chance, jump online. I think you can jump on YouTube and check out his highlights as a youngster. It's just incredible the way he toys with defensive lines and, breaks through multiple tackles on single runs and all that sort of stuff. So there's no doubt that he is a superstar of the future. I know, we throw that tag around fairly easily, but if he can stay fit, he's got a really, really big future ahead of him.
Oh, mate, his highlight reel by the end of his career, if he stays injury-free, will just be on another level. For fans that haven't really seen much of him, he's quite a smaller player. So, I don't know if he's as small as a Preston Campbell, but his explosiveness in small spaces is similar to Preston Campbell, but he moves a little bit like a Benji Marshall or an RTS. I know RTS is quite a bit bigger, but that's in regards to how he breaks those tackles. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about some of the best footwork in the game, and also quite strong for his size. Like his ability to, and maybe his ability to put people off balance. And this is with Greg Inglis. Like Greg Inglis was always, he's a much bigger body, obviously.
Yep.
But what I always found special about Inglis is that his balance in contact. So when he stuck his fend out, his body was perfectly balanced to put the weight into that fend. And I think with Faalogo, he's a similar in the sense that he's making you unbalanced, so you're not strong enough to take the kind of contact, if you know what I'm saying, Smithy?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the small difference between him and Inglis, like where they share that similarity, but he is lightning quick. Like GI in his younger days in particular, like took him a little bit to wind up, but then you get him into the backfield, some open spaces, and then it's shut the gate. Like there was countless times where you've seen him break the initial line, look at the fullback in his eyes, and then just run around him. Right. Yeah. I remember him doing that in the grand final in 2007. He did it in a state of origin where he beat Kirk Gidley. I think that might have been in Melbourne. But this guy, he is off the mark. He is lightning. So he's the type of guy that just like you cannot give him space. Yeah. Like if you give him room to move and let him dictate to you, then he's going to give you a real hard time. But I think given the injury history of Ryan Papenhuyzen, this is a really smart. It's a business move, right? It's a business move for the Melbourne Storm to say, well, look, if Papenhuyzen is to go down again, which then puts a lot of question marks over his future. I'm talking about like a serious injury like he's had the last couple of years. We've got a guy ready to go. Like he is NRL standard. Yeah. Sure, hasn't got the experience of a lot of the fullbacks playing in the game at the moment, but his natural ability certainly has him at that standard already. Well, I'd say at the moment, when it comes to attacking rugby league, he'd probably be up there with some of the top tier fullbacks. It's probably just his defence that he's going to have to work on due to his size. Reece Walsh had to work on it. Scotty Drinkwater has to work. It's just a natural, smaller fullbacks. I'm sure Ryan Papenhuyzen had to work on it. It's pretty normal. Now, moving on to actually, just quickly with Ryan Papenhuyzen though, where does this? I'll just put myself in his shoes. Yep. I'm on a pretty big wicket. I think he comes off in 2025. And it sucks to say this, but if I'm being honest, to me it sounds like them saying to Pappy, at this stage, after 25, you won't be our fullback going forward. And I know that's reading into it so much. Maybe Bellyache's got a plan of he wants to create this kind of dual role of the 14 and the 1. But outside looking in, that's the assumption I'm making on this re-signing for 5 years. Yeah, I guess you could sort of read into it any way you want, really. Whether it be it's sort of assigned to Ryan Papenhuyzen that when he comes off contract that he may have to look elsewhere. But I actually don't mind it. I just think that the Storm are they're really covering their own backsides with having an NRL standard fullback there, waiting in case something happens to Papenhuyzen. And I guess if I'm Ryan Papenhuyzen, well, I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what, I'm just going to back myself. Yeah, I'm going to back myself to go out and play well. And if he's able to stay fit and puts in the performances like he had prior to that knee injury, like you got to remember, this is a guy that was being spoken about to take over or to take James Tedesco's jersey in Origin. So that's how well he was playing leading up to that knee injury when they took on the Raiders, and he shattered his kneecap. Like people were talking about Ryan Papenhuyzen saying he has to be in the Blues team for this Origin series. Yeah. Now I know that's a couple of years ago, but I haven't seen too many signs where, particularly in these preseason matches, where Ryan Papenhuyzen there's any lingering issues from that injury, particularly the ankle that he broke last year.
Mate, he looks great. I think he looks fantastic.
You know what I mean? So if the Storm can get back to winning their winning ways, well, when I talk about winning ways,
they still came third.
They played in the prelim. You know what I mean? They finished in the top 4 for the 400th consecutive year. But if they get back to playing some of their best football, he's going to be a huge part of that. So,
mate,
he for him, he's just got to back himself, and he's one guy that is confident in his own ability. So if he backs himself, then they've got a great headache to have at the end of his term.
Oh, mate, in regards to Pappy and can he get back to his best, I believe he can. I actually believe he can get back to even better. I think his ball playing has improved dramatically. And you have to remember as well, as you just said, in the year that the Storm broke the records points, was it 2021 or 22?
22, I think, yeah.
Like, Pappy was a huge reason for that. And you have to ask yourself, if Pappy is fit this last year, do they make a grand final? I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I tell you what, they go a lot closer. I will say, though, that, geez, if I'm another club and there is an opportunity of Pappy kind of feeling like, hang on a sec, like, I'm a Clive Churchill and, mate, I'm giving his manager a call and I'm speaking to Storm.
Yep.
Literally yesterday, I'm calling and saying, hey, are you interested in maybe leaving early and we'll give you this, longer-term deal, all that kind of stuff. But, yes, I really think Pappy will get back to it. Just quickly before we head to the break, this is now the second time the Storm have offered a 5-year deal to a relatively, obviously Howarth, a 5-year deal, hadn't played NRL, Faalogo, only one game.
Yep.
Quite unique areas for the Storm. Thoughts?
Yeah. I just think that they're looking at him as a exceptional talent, Kempy, to be honest. And the same as Jack Howarth. I think he was or still is an exceptional young football player. And we've seen a bit more of him, haven't we? So he played in the All-Star game, and then he's played in the preseason game for the Melbourne Storm as well. So I think that may be a real indication that it'll be his year to be playing some solid first grade. They may have just wanted to hold off a little bit just so he was ready, whether it be physically, mentally, because it's a big step. Like you can be a really, really strong player in the reserve grade competitions, New South Wales Cup or the Host Plus Cup up here in Queensland. But it's a huge step from that level up into the NRL. So he may not have been quite so ready, but yeah, you're right. It's they're big moves, they're bold moves to be able to sign young guys on long contracts. But at the same time, I think that shows for the people making those decisions how confident they are in those young men moving forward.
Yeah, and Howarth definitely looks like he's developing. I will say, ironically, sometimes players that are quiet in New South Wales Cup actually excel better in first grade because first grade is all about doing your job at the tippity top. Whereas some guys that kill it in reserve grade, they can't, the gaps aren't there for, I wouldn't say selfish, but they're almost individual players that they have all these stats or whatever, but they don't actually fit the system above them.
They find it a bit harder in first grade.
Yeah, because they're set to one side of the field, for example. Let's say they're an edge back row, and I'm just using that randomly. But in New South Wales Cup, they might be the main guy, so they go in and take 20 hit-ups. In first grade, it's like, mate, we need you to keep your width and run lines and, be good in D. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Give us a text, 0457 736 736. Give us a follow at SEN League. Got some texts here. Here's a text from Dylan. No, it was 2021, boys. We was mainly Nico at fullback because Pappy had a lot of head knocks. We actually checked it out.
Yes.
And it was, so Hines played 15 and Pappy played 11. So
yes, that was their big year, wasn't it?
That was that big year where they broke all the records. More text here. Question for Smithy. I'd love to know his thoughts on Harry Grant being named as Storm captain. Did he see his leadership qualities when Harry was coming through the pathways at Melbourne? Bellyache spoke about having captain who was out on the field as opposed to playing limited minutes, citing that was why Walsh had the captaincy taken off him. Stormy Daniel from Prairie Wood.
Yeah, Stormy Daniel. I think, the main reason would have to be because Harry's playing 80 minutes at the moment. He's playing in that key position of number 9, so he's in that spine. So he's a part of a lot of the decision making around the team and the way the game plan is set out. Some systems around how they're going to attack certain opposition teams. So it's good to have someone captaining the footy side that is across all of that. Also, he's like a link, right? He's a link between the forwards and the backs. So it's a great person to have there captaining the footy side, whereas in the last couple of years, they've had guys that weren't 80-minute players. I think of Jesse Bromwich and, Dale Finucane, last year, Christian Welsh. So it was really difficult. There was always this chopping and changing. If they went off the field and got interchanged or whatnot, then it would fall on someone else. So I think it's best, you look across all the teams. Most of the captains are the guys that are out there for the entire game. So they got that continuity for the rest of the footy side. As far as the leadership qualities, from Harry Grant, well, the time that I was at the Storm when he was there, he was only a very young man. But the qualities I did see from him was, the effort that he put in at training. He was an exceptional worker. Still the same now with the way he trains. So he's always setting a great example for the players around him, not just guys younger than him, but guys that are older as well. And watching the way he goes about his business at training. So that's first and foremost. That's a great attribute to have as a leader. Is that you're willing to do all the really little things that matter in these football clubs, in these football systems, and that you're setting a good example. The thing for Harry this year is that his number one priority should be the way he plays. His number one priority should be his performances. I know it can be a little bit, well, I don't know, I wouldn't say challenging, but a little bit daunting when you first take over as captain. You think you have to do everything for the football side, but the advice I'd give to any person just starting out in that position as captain, as a new captain, would be to say, look, there are certain commitments and roles that you do now take on extra from when you were just, I won't say just, but when you weren't the captain. But the most important thing is that you worry about your performance first and foremost.
Now, I've got another text here. Boys, a wily old dog here. The Bunnies website are in meltdown. I interacted to know your opinion. I'm interested to know your opinion on their first game. My view, I emphasise it's a first game for sure, but many thought it was a continuation from last season. The knives are out already, but the supposed loyal fan base from Mark. Thoughts, Smithy?
So are we saying that the loyal Bunnies fans are out to get him after the first up result? Wow. Surely not.
One result, surely.
Come on. Look, they can't be true.
Look, in regards
to mate, you haven't. The knives aren't out for the Broncos after your boys lost.
I'll tell you what, if you read some Instagram comments, holy.
Oh, really?
Mate, they are so extreme. It's just like, mate, it's round one.
No, they can't be.
And it's like, such and such needs to go and this, that, and you're like, what the hell?
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty hectic.
Come on. One game.
Guys, come on.
Everyone take a breath.
I will say, with the Rabbitohs, though, in regards to continuations from issues last year, it is crucial they get early wins, not to necessarily prove whether they do or they don't, just to remove that added pressure of, if they don't get wins, the headlines write themselves. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Protect yourself and those around you from the flu this winter. Book your flu shot today at Chemist Warehouse. Let's just get straight into it. So basically what we'll do here, guys, is we will do the game preview, and then Smithy's just going to give his vibe and his strengths and weaknesses of each team as we talk about the game preview this week. This weekend, Knights team news. It's Knights versus Raiders. Brayley, he's out with a hamstring injury. Crossland named at hooker. Dylan Lucas has won that edge back row spot. Kai Pearce-Paul from England, he's named at 17 on the bench. Hastings Gamble, the preferred halves duo with Jack Cogger on the bench. In Raiders team news, Ethan Strange gets the nod at number 6, beating out KO Weeks. Rapana named at fullback in place of suspended Sebastian Chris. Morgan Smithies makes his NRL debut. He's a Pommy at 13, with Horsburgh also suspended. Zach Hoskins starts on the edge with Elliot Whitehead out with injury due back round 3 or 4. Danny Levi named at hooker, starting on the bench. No room for Wolford. First of all, thoughts on this game, Smithy?
Well, it's a big one, isn't it, for Newcastle? They get to kick off the season at home Thursday night. There'll be 30,000. It'll be sold out. I've got no doubt about that. And look, mate, I think, and I know like the big out for them is obviously Dom Young. Had a fair impact for their footy side last year with his try scoring ability, but I reckon they continue their run. Like I think Kalen Ponga was the catalyst for that footy side last year, but I think they would have taken a lot of confidence out of the way they finished the year in particular. I think, what did they win? 10, 11 in a row to get themselves deep into the finals. So not the way they wanted to finish. They had a really tough game leading into that matchup against the Warriors, and they fell short. But I think they win. I think they win this one. I don't know. I don't know if the Raiders in their first up match have got enough in the bank to beat this Newcastle side. Although, it's funny, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, mate. in backing the Knights, they didn't really impress me too much with that trial over in Fiji. I don't know if you've seen that game against Melbourne, but yeah, they didn't overly impress me. I know, like, Storm did some pretty good things, but yeah, they had a few of their top liners out Melbourne as well, and they took care of the Knights pretty comfortably. So Ponga was outstanding. He was the standout for me in that trial game. But just for this match though, I'm thinking Newcastle too strong. They are very hard to beat at home. They won 10 of 13 at home. I think the numbers were last year. So when there's 30,000 there and they're loud and they start well, they're really hard to beat.
Yeah, the Newey Knights, the concern I have heading into this year is not necessarily the forward pack on paper. Mm-hmm. It's more the forward pack's ability to back up the steely grit that they built last year. And I agree with you, in that last trial against the Storm, I was really underwhelmed with their forward pack.
Yes.
I just thought that, against a Storm forward pack who isn't necessarily notoriously one of the better forward packs in the competition, they got completely dominated. Now, I don't know whether that is because the Storm are on a new level this year and their forward pack are stepping up. Or it's the Knights almost dropping their standards a little bit and losing a bit. And look, these are just trials. So, we're just going off that. But even if the Knights are a bit scrappy in defence on the weekend, I just think they got too many points in them. So if the score is 34-20 or something along those lines, or 30-20, I could see something like that happening, because I just don't see the Raiders having, even though I just said they scored 20 points, I don't think them having enough points in them to beat a Newey Knights side.
Yeah, and you got to remember, mate, they got some quality sitting out this game. Like Whitehead's out, Hadawira and Naira's out, Horsburgh, Seb Chris, he's suspended. So, like, they got some quality on the sideline missing from this game. And you mentioned in the preview that they've got a couple of guys on debut. But, yeah, I just think Knights at home, first up. If they were playing away, maybe different story. I might be leaning towards Raiders, but I think Knights at home first up. The one thing concerned, like Jaden Brayley, it's concerning. He can't seem to stay fit.
Oh, so unlucky. Like, seriously.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like he is a quality dummy half, and like I just feel like they're a stronger side if he's playing, but he can't seem to get himself on the park.
Yeah. Look, the silver lining, and you hate to say it, I guess the silver lining is they have unearthed a guy like Phoenix Crossland.
Yeah.
Silver lining as well, they got some really good young number 9s coming through. But so with the Newey Knights, we'll go one for one then.
Okay.
Strength this year, weakness this year for you.
Strength. I'll just go off the back of last year with the way they finished. I think that will give them a lot of confidence. I think they need to really grow off that and challenge themselves to improve, Kempy. Like, they can't be satisfied with finishing the way they did, playing some finals and think, well, that's great. Like, you got to challenge yourself to be better and to improve, not just as a team, but as individuals. If they improve as individuals, then they're going to be a better footy side. That's just a natural thing that happens. But, I think they will. I think they'll go better again, particularly with, Ponga. Like, think back to last year. Like, Ponga how many rounds did he play at 5'8"? It was an experiment. He trained the entire preseason, and it was well documented. He's making the change to the 6. Didn't work. He had a couple of head knocks. Come back, they bit the bullet. He went back to fullback, and then we seen what happened. They were a different footy side. He was a different player.
Yeah,
he was a more confident, more settled guy. That was his natural position, and they went on their run. So, obviously he's key, but I think they grow as a football side off the back of their run at the back end of the year. I think it's their forwards need to stand up to give guys like Ponga an opportunity, but I think they they continue on from last year.
Raiders. How do Raiders have a year that surprises everyone?
Oh, I don't know. This is, like listening to you before about the slide being the Raiders. I tend to sort of agree with you a little bit there because when you're losing a guy, and I know teams aren't built around one person, but a guy like Jack Whiten, that's a big loss. That's a really big loss because he's not just an important, part of your football team. He's a huge part of your club. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy that, really builds camaraderie amongst the group. He's a guy that, sets standards as well. He is a competitor. That's the biggest thing that they've lost with Jack Whiten. His competitive nature when he's out in the field, he's leading kick chases, he's putting on big tackles, he's trying to inspire his teammates, going on big runs, all those type of things. Like that's really hard to replace. So that I think that's the challenge for the Raiders this year is when they get into those types of games where they're looking for something or for someone to lead them out of it. Where is that going to come from?
Yeah, look, I think with the Raiders, they basically almost need to go, look, we're a team that is going to just score tries through the middle. So just like quick play of the balls, winning all the contact. And then in defense, our line speed is crazy because I just don't know whether they have the linkmen to get the ball out to the edges to score a lot. Obviously, they will score some tries on the edges. But anyway, okay, next game. Warriors v. the Sharks, Friday, 6 p.m. How do you see this game playing out? It's at home for the Warriors v. the Sharkies.
Yeah, no, I think Warriors because they're playing at home. I'm going Warriors in this one. Can't wait to see Roger back in his first official game. I know he's played some preseason games, but first official game when the result matters. Playing in the centres, of course, so a big game for him. The Sharkies, they were my slider, and I've copped a little bit. I've copped a little bit with our listeners for saying that.
The texts.
On the text messages. It's a bit of a kick in the guts, and gee, Smithy, the Sharkies must have got under your skin in your career. No, they didn't. They didn't. They were high quality opposition that we had a pretty healthy rivalry with. But yeah, I think, mate, this is the challenge for Sharkies is, okay, what's their next move? Okay, what was spoken about in the preseason this year, where they need a shift in mentality. Okay, like. It's really hard to, become this different team overnight. It's hard to transform yourself in one preseason. It takes multiple preseasons to change the way you play your game and be able to compete against the better sides. But the first step has to be their mentality. What have they done? What have they changed with the way they think about their football? How they manage these tight games, these tougher games where they come up against good opposition, teams sitting in the top 8. What have they done to change their mentality? I'll be interested to see how they approach those games this year. Warriors, mate, I think a lot like Newcastle, I think they continue. They would have taken a huge amount of confidence out of what they did last year. I think they were a surprise packet for everyone, really. I don't think anyone really seen them doing what they did last year off the back of some of the best football that Sean Johnson has played, along with Adam Fanua-Blake. Those two are huge. Tohu Harris as well as skipper. I thought those three players in particular. Then you throw in Roger. It's just, it's a really good football side. So I think they continue on. I think the support that grew around, the footy side and up the wires and all that sort of movement, that just continues on in 2024. But as far as this game is concerned, I think the Warriors get their season underway with a win at home.
Yeah, it really depends how, the Sharkies approach this because, looking at it from the perspective of how can we look at this like an opportunity? The Warriors, currently a top 4 side, obviously finished last year on top 4. At home, red hot from preseason trials. If you're the Sharkies or you're Craig Fitzgibbon, surely you're saying to the boys, this is our opportunity to send a message to everyone, our fans, the rest of the NRL, that we are here and we're serious business. Because if you go and take a Warriors scalp at home, at their home ground, them looking red hot, the confidence for the rest of the season, like it's almost, outside of maybe going to Penrith and beating Penrith or the Broncos, like it's almost one of the biggest scalps you can get, or maybe Melbourne.
Melbourne, yep.
It's almost one of the biggest scalps you can get right now with where the Warriors are at home.
Yep.
So it's a real big opportunities for the Sharkies to almost just quell the noise a little bit for the first 10 rounds. For the Warriors, I mean, on the like I guess the other side of the coin, and it's an opportunity to send a message of like, boys, we are here and we're going for a premiership this year. We're not happy with just top 4 getting into a prelim. Yep. We're happy with going for a premiership.
Yep. You need to go, mate. You just need to go again. Like I was saying about the Knights, like you got to challenge yourself. Like you can't just have the flash in the pan, one hit wonder attitude towards your footy. Like when you've had a great season, you need to build. Perfect example, Penrith Panthers, right? So they go 2020, they have a remarkable season. I think they won 17 in a row. They created records on their own, get to the grand final, fall short against the Storm. Okay? They that off season and that following preseason, they could have looked at their 2020 year and gone, how good was that? Like, mate, we broke some records, we created some history for our club and for that particular team that played. You know, like let's just roll out and see what happens. And hopefully it continues. Well, like take hope and luck out of it. Yeah. Work hard, put some things in place where, you're striving to be better. You're striving to be better. Search for little discrepancies in your game. Search for, small things where you could have been better in certain situations, not just throughout games, but throughout the year. Like, how did we handle that part, the middle part of the year? How did we handle going into finals? Look for those little things where you go, right, they're small improvements where if we continue and do similar things to last year but improve those areas as well, well, we're going to be really hard to beat.
Okay, so the biggest weapon for the Sharkies this year, or biggest positive and the biggest positive for the Warriors?
Well, Warriors' easy one is inclusion of Roger. I think he's going to be enormous for them, both on and off the field. I think for the Sharkies, look, I really do feel that as though they would have addressed what has happened over the last 2 years. Like, you can't hide from the fact that they struggled against those top sides. You can't, and you can no longer just go, well, that was just something that happened again. Well, it wasn't. It's a trend now. Like 2 years in a row, it's a trend. So they had to address. I think that's the positive for them moving forward. I think Craig Fitzgibbon would have addressed that. I think all the players are aware of that now, so they'll treat that accordingly and have that different mindset. But Kempy, it's one thing talking about it. It's another thing implementing it. For 26 rounds or 27 rounds throughout the year.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Let's get straight into it. Arguably the match of the round, Storm v Panthers. Storm have not lost a round one under Craig Bellamy. Cam Munster groin is still a question mark after slipping in the shower, but he's named at 6 for now. Joe Chan is named to start in the back row with Trent Leoro at lock. Pappenhausen set to start at fullback. Luai named to play after missing World Club Challenge. Taylor May in the centres, filling the hole. Critter left. Luke Summerton to start at hooker, while Peachy named on the bench because, oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He's a gun hooker.
Mitch Kenny.
Mitch Kenny. Jeez Louise. He is out, obviously suspended for some off-field stuff, but he'll be back soon.
Yes.
Speak to me, Smithy. What do you reckon, mate?
Oh, have you ever slipped in the shower?
Listen, I might have slipped, but I definitely didn't do my groin.
He's a finely tuned athlete, Cam Munster. And I must say, he is slightly highly strung too.
Mate.
Just in general.
Get bath mats in there.
The groins might be tight already before the slip, and then just bang, way it went. Come on, Munster. Seriously, mate. Come on,
brother.
If you've done a little doozy somewhere, just say I did it at training.
Yeah, little strain at training.
It looks so guilty. Saying I slipped in the shower. Come on, mate.
I'll tell you what, there'll be clubs sending out bath mats before every season. No more slips in the shower.
Oh, anyway. He's been named. He has been named, as you mentioned, Kempy. But team lists don't need to be confirmed until, tomorrow, I think, for this game? 24 hours beforehand. So tomorrow night, they need to confirm whether he's playing or not. So still a little bit around question marks around him, question marks around Jerome Luai as well. So the 2 sixes, there's still a little bit of doubt around. Of course, Jerome having not played since the grand final after carrying that shoulder injury into the last game. Good opportunity for Melbourne, I feel. Good opportunity, I feel, with Penrith coming off the World Club Challenge game where they were beaten in, well, we won't get into that, but some very questionable circumstances.
Oh, my God.
But it's a big trip. Having done it before, it is a big trip to go over and then come back. I know it's been a couple of weeks since they've arrived back home, but it does, like they went over and they wanted to win that and they put plenty of effort into it. So sometimes it does take a little bit to get going off the back of those trips. They might prove me completely wrong and come out and play, exceptional footy, the way that they've played the last 3 years. But I don't know. I just see this as a really good opportunity for Storm to get a win in their first game and continue that run of wins in round one that they've created with Craig Bellamy as coach. But there's no doubt at all that this team that they're taking on, they create a huge threat to that record that they've produced for a long time.
Mate, this is honestly mind-blowing. Look, maybe it's a credit to how dominant the Panthers have been. So the Melbourne Storm at home in a round one clash under Craig Bellamy, currently paying $2.31 to win head-to-head.
Yeah.
$2.31 compared to the Panthers' favourites at $1.61. To put that in perspective, Para Eels at home are paying $1.43 and the Dogs are paying $2.83. So only 22 cents more, the Bulldogs have a chance to beat the Eels at home.
Yeah.
People are all in on the Penny Panthers, especially very, very surprising. What are your thoughts on, I guess?
Well, I think that's all around the question marks over Munster, right? So I think if he's dead set in, which we'll find out tomorrow, like we said, if he's dead set in, I reckon that comes in a little bit. I think a little bit of sort of money will go to Melbourne playing at home, given that record. But it's a hard one, right? Because you're playing the best team that the competition has seen in the last 3 years. By a long shot, and they've had a legitimate game as well. That is the positive that comes out of the World Club Challenge. Like there are some issues that can arise out of that trip, given it's a long way over, long way back. You're coming out of those really cold conditions that you play in, almost freezing conditions, and you've got to come back into the heat in the summer. But I'm sure Penrith are a very professional outfit. They would have taken all precautions to have their players healthy and ready to go. The one positive they have is that they've played a top flight game, right? Every other team playing this weekend have only had the preseason trials. Now, at the same time, like we have seen some high quality football, but there's been chopping and changing of positions. Younger guys have had a crack. Some of the more senior players, they haven't played a whole game of football. Whereas, that game that they played overseas, that's as good a game as you'd find back here. So they'll be ready to go. If Munster plays, I think they could jag one over Penrith, though.
Oh, I cannot wait for this game. Seriously, it's in regards to the Storm selection, I actually think the Joe Chan one has come out of. I did not expect. I put it this way. I thought it was a battle between Howarth and Blore to get that edge back row position. But Joe Chan impressed in the trials. I thought he was really good. But maybe that is, I guess, the last piece of the puzzle for the Storm forward pack where I felt like they've really struggled with explosiveness. They've obviously got Katoa on the other side, but on the other edge, they've got, got really good battlers that get through a lot of work. But I think maybe Bellamy, by moving King to a front rower, because I think he played more as a front rower. Trent Leoro is definitely more lateral of a player than a King. Do you think that is kind of Bellamy saying, look, I need to get a bit more punch through the middle with a bit of footwork?
Well, I think Trent Leoro, he played a fair bit of lock growing up, so I think that's his more favoured position. Although, like the last couple of seasons, I think he's been quite good in the back row. To be honest, I think he's one of the young players that have played quite consistent. Although he's still learning his trade, there's no doubt about that. He's only been in for a couple of years, but I think with Joey Chan, obviously, he's a bigger body. He's an explosive type player, a lot like his father, Alex Chan was. Who played a few games for the Melbourne Storm. I think maybe that's just what Craig's gone for. I think he would have been really impressed with the way Joe Chan played in the preseason games, particularly that last one against Newcastle over in Fiji. So I think he's just opted for maybe a bit of a bigger body. Trent Liero's got a good motor. He plays a lot of games. He plays 80 minutes, Kempy. So pushing Josh King up front, moving Trent Liero to 13. He's got a guy there that can lock in the middle and play out the 80 minutes, and then he just rotates his those younger guys off the bench. The only other guy I may have got that spot in the back row would be Chris Lewis. Not as explosive as Joe Chan, but got a bit more experience considering it's round one and they are taking on Penrith. But I think, as I said, Joe Chan must have impressed Craig Bellamy that much that he's thrown him the jersey and said, mate, go do your thing.
Now, just quickly before we head to break, one big positive from Penrith, or basically, what do you tell a team that's won 3 premierships in a row to win the 4th?
They just got to find their new motivation. That's what it is. I think at times it can be challenging to stay hungry. That's the difficulty, right? It's easy getting to the top. The hardest thing is staying there. And these guys have found a way to do it, 3 years in a row. Now it's another new challenge. They got to find the new challenge for themselves to keep them up there, because the one thing that happens when you're sitting at the top, Kempy, everyone's coming for you.
Yeah.
You don't get a week off, mate. Like you do not get an easy game. It doesn't matter who you're playing, they're coming for you, because every time you take someone on, whether you're playing at home or playing away, it's the biggest scalp that team can get. And you see some of the teams that haven't done so well over the last couple of years, if they were to beat Penrith now, it would be like winning a premiership. It'll be like winning a grand final if they were to knock them off.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Eels versus Doggies. Thoughts, Smithy?
I've got the home team again, mate. I've got Eels. Yeah, I just think they'll be too strong. They're pretty impressive in their last warm-up match against the Titans out at Ipswich. Very hot day, very, very muggy, very humid conditions, but they played well. And I just think they take that confidence into round one. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Doggies. I don't want to knock, their recruitment and where they're trying to take this footy club and this footy team. I just think that Parramatta will just be a little bit too strong for them come round one. Although, I've seen a lot of great things from, particularly their first game against Melbourne. Albeit Melbourne, they didn't play a lot of their big name players. It was mostly a sort of reserve grade fringy type team that they rolled out. They had some really good touches. I thought Drew Hutchinson played well. I thought Jamin Salmon, he looked really fit and sharp. I thought he was good. Blake Taff, of course, had some good touches. But I think Eels just a little bit too classy for the Doggies first up.
Yeah, I think that some people anyway, may be conflating the hype from Bulldogs' first trial with, I guess, the wrong kind of hype. Like, as in, basically, they look at that first trial and they go, oh, mate, we looked outstanding. We're on here. Yeah, look how much we've improved. But the hype was actually more around, look how good our juniors are, because it was essentially juniors versus juniors to a degree.
Yep.
And which is true. The Bulldogs juniors are outstanding. They've won Jersey Flag. They've basically all the juniors, they've won them. New South Wales Cup, they're at the top of the table until all the injuries hit first grade side. But don't conflate that with, in my opinion, the Dogs going to make a push for the 8 this year. I agree with you, mate. I think they're still going to struggle. I look at their forward pack. It's reason probably why they've Saluka Fafita, I think it is. They've recruited him effective immediately from the Rabbitohs. Yep. And then also, I think it's going to take time for their spine to gel. But look, I know it's hard to hear this as a Doggies fan, but I think it's going to be another year of just a bit of patience, building towards 2025, 6 and 7 when those younger fellas kind of come through.
Yeah.
In regards to the Eels, I was actually quite impressed with them in the trials. I think the emergence of Taulagi being one of their better players in the trials is exactly what they needed, because I felt like last year their depth in the forwards was a little bit shallow. Now, in their defence, Sean Lane was injured and Matto was injured for a bit. Now I look at their forward pack. It's still not as strong as their grand final appearance forward pack, but I do believe it is stronger than last year. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think look, particularly their starting 13, Kempy, like it's quite settled. They've played a fair bit of football together. Sean Lane being back there, he missed a chunk of the season last year through injury. I thought Bryce Cartwright looked really, really good in the preseason games. If he can just contain, there's no doubt there's an abundance of skill there in his game. As long as he can, try and find a bit of consistency and the right time to use that skill and the right time just to, sort of contain it a little bit and just play a little bit more conservative. They've got a really, really talented player there in the back row. As you mentioned before, mate, Dylan Brown, earlier in the show, if he comes out and has a strong season, these guys, they have to play finals, don't they? They have to.
With that,
they finished 13th last year. They're a much better side than finishing 13th. And they show they're like a side that teases everyone. Imagine being a Parramatta fan. They tease everyone watching the NRL, but they tease everyone with their brilliance. And then the following week, there's no glimpse of what they showed the previous week. So, look, I think the settled and the look of particularly their 13, their 13 that they're rolling out this week, that's a strong football side.
Yeah,
that's a really strong football side. Who when they walk out in the field, they should be thinking, "Hey, boys, we are a top 8 team.
Yeah,
we are a top 8 team. Let's go and play that way." And with the addition of, you mentioned Taulungi before, Kelma Taulungi. I actually played a little bit of footy with him at the Melbourne Storm. He come down there as a young fella. He is a very, very good football player. Been playing at the West Tigers the last couple of years, playing in the back row, can play in the middle a little bit, but he's skillful. He's got good size. He's athletic. I think he just adds another dimension to them coming off the bench.
The only question for me with the Eels is just outside backs. Pensini was great in the trials, and he's continuing to develop really well. They're just probably they need one outside back to have a breakout year, I think. Now, I don't have the team list in front of me. Apologies, I'm forgetting his name, but there is a young fella that has been named, I think, at 22, and he has a lot of talent. Can basically play anywhere in the back line.
Blaze Taulungi?
Blaze Taulungi, that's it. Now, he may be a year or two away from, hitting his straps, but maybe he is the guy that breaks into that side. Or maybe we see Bailey Simonson find his, really good form of a few years ago again. That's the big question for me around them is outside backs.
What about the doggies, mate? How long do you think Stephen Crichton plays the entire season in the centres?
Look, I've been pretty vocal on this ever since they signed him. I understand. I think we can all agree. Best center in the game on his day. It's at the very least top 2, top 3. But I just think that if you're a team at the bottom of the ladder, in key positions, you need your best players, regardless of whether that is their specialist position. Blake Taff, I think he obviously struggled in the last trial quite a lot. I think that he needs just a little bit more time in New South Wales to get his bearings at a new club. At this stage, you put your best players in key positions to just try to get their hands on the ball as much as possible until you have a ready replacement like a Joash Papali or a Taff, comes and kills it. What do you reckon, mate?
Well, I thought the reason for making the move was that he wanted to play fullback. I really did. I thought the move away from Penrith to play for the Dogs was that he was going to get the number 1 jersey. Well, because he wasn't going to get the fullback job in front of Dylan Edwards.
So my understanding was that, no accusations here, but allegedly that might be a story that was released to make it seem like that's why he's leaving, when it was actually maybe he didn't get offered much money at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And I could believe that too.
Yeah.
For a team that isn't at the top of the table like the Penrith Panthers, they're looking for those classy players, and they need to pay more than what they're getting paid at the current club. So, it might have been a little bit of a slip in the shower type of decoy.
Yeah, he slipped in the shower. That's why he's playing centres.
Something like that.
Something along those lines.
Is he going to kick goals though, or will Matt Burton stay on as a kicker? I think we had a question from Andy.
I think Critter will. I think he will. Captain of the club. That's a responsibility. He's a good goal kicker.
Oh, so he just says to Birdo, mate, I'm kicking. I'm the captain. I'm kicking.
Well, look, he's clutch. Like he's a clutch player.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
You know, so it's like if I want like high pressure situation, who do I want kicking for me?
Yep.
At the moment, it's probably Critter.
Yeah, he kicks at a high percentage rate too.
Yeah.
Like when Cleary was out last year, missed a few games. Like Critter kicked and hardly missed a goal.
Let's get straight into it. Titans v Dragons, Saturday, 7:35, 6:35 Queensland time, Seabus Super Stadium. Titans v Dragons. How do you see this playing out, Smithy? Look,
well, I think there's going to be a bit of a change. I think we might see a different footy side roll out for the Titans. Well, both sides actually. They've had two changes, brand new coaches. Shane Flanagan, of course, to the Dragons. He's certainly gone in and tried to make his mark really early, and also Desi Hasler at the Titans as well. So, look, I'm going to lean with the Titans being at home, but really, this is a game that could go either way. Like the Dragons of the past, they can be rocks and diamonds at times. Same with the Titans, but I just think they'll have a bit of a harder edge to them this year. Big blow for them though, with Jaden Campbell out for the first month of footy,
and for Feeder,
and for Feeder as well. So for Feeder's out for a couple, but the one guy that I'm really super keen to come back and watch, he's back in the game, Bo Firma.
Yeah, missed
all of last year with an ACL injury. He's a guy that will want to get back. You know, first and foremost, play some good footy for the Titans, but he is well and truly on the radar to play State of Origin for the Maroons again. So at this stage, Kempy, I'm going Titans.
Now with the Dragons, look, I was very not excited with the Dragons this year before the trials.
Yes.
After the trials and seeing a team, it looks like they're responding to Flanagan because we know Flanagan knows how to get the boys up. It looks like they're responding to him. All of a sudden, they've turned into a team like, hang on a sec here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not sitting here saying, they'll set the world alight, but at the same time, I think they might maybe surprise some people. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I reckon they could, mate. I reckon they could. And much like Des Hasler would have implemented a few things with the Titans, I think Shane Flanagan the same with the Dragons. Everyone, you speak to the players that were coached by him at the Sharks, and they talk about, how good of a coach he was and the things he put around the footy team to make them a great footy side. I think he would have done the same thing. Big move, moving Lomax to the wing. You think that's going to work?
Look,
how would he feel?
I'm a big proponent. I think Lomax needs to be fullback. I think Sloan, incredible potential, but he'd probably be better served just going back to New South Wales Cup and earning that jersey back.
Yeah.
But I think Flanagan is looking at like, you know what, I'm going to back this young kid and I'm going to get the best out of him that hasn't been able to be, other coaches haven't been able to do it yet.
So straight up to say, here you go, mate. Have a crack for me.
And I believe in you. I believe in
confidence.
Yeah.
I believe in you. Give him confidence. Go do your thing. I don't know, maybe give him, 4 weeks? If it doesn't work, then maybe...
Lomax to the back there.
Maybe.
Now, on to Dolphins v Cowboys. How do you see this game playing out?
Well, awful news for the Dolphins. Obviously, Tommy Gilbert doing his ACL in one of those preseason games. Makes Ray Stone come back in. Kenny Bromwich on the bench. Bit of a different looking footy side. Obviously, the big ones in though: Farnworth, Flegler, huge ins for the Dolphins. But I think they're coming up against a side that were pretty good in the preseason. I think they've got a lot to prove to people this year. I think the most important thing is to prove them to themselves that they're a better footy side than what they showed us last year, the Cowboys. Love the Queensland Derby first up. It's 3 o'clock up here, but 4 o'clock down in the southern states at Suncorp. Hopefully the sun's out. It's going to be a nice dry track for them. Remembering the Dolphins, they come out and they won that first game. There's plenty of hype. There was fins all over the grandstands at Suncorp round 1 last year against the Chooks, and I was part of the commentary team, which I'm going to be this Sunday as well. And it was a wonderful atmosphere. I think there's going to be another big crowd there being the Queensland Derby. I'm going the Cowboys.